Okay, so this first example here, I'm going to start off with any distribution, which I definitely have to do. I need to take that 1/6 and distribute that to both pieces inside my parentheses. So remember, distributing with that fraction is just doing a little bit of multiplication. So I'm multiplying 1/6 by each of those numbers. So when I'm multiplying fractions, I just multiply straight across. 1 times 36x is 36x, and 6 times 1 is 6. 96 times the 1, 6 times the 1. And again, that comes to when we're multiplying by a fraction that has a 1 on top and then a denominator of whatever. We really just end up dividing each of those pieces by the denominator, which is 6 this time, equals 8. So we're mathing. 36x divided by 6 is going to be a nice normal 6x. And 96 divided by 6, I'm going to jump to my calculator because I don't want to do that in my head, ends up being 16. So I kept that minus sign in the middle. So 6x minus 16 is equal to 8. Ooh, I forgot to draw my line down the center. You might forget to do that occasionally too. I will always forget, but I'll try to remember. So we did the distribution. Now we're going to isolate that x term. So we want to isolate the 6x. What is preventing the 6x from being by itself? That would be the negative 16. The opposite of a negative 16 would be a positive 16. So I am going to add 16 to both sides. My 16s cancel out because that was what I wanted. I'm left with my 6x is equal to 16 plus 8 is going to be 24, I believe, but I'm going to double check, and yes, it is. Now, last step is to isolate that variable. The x in the 6 is preventing the x from being by itself, and it's being multiplied, so I'm going to do the inverse of multiplication, which is division, and I am going to divide both sides by 6. 24 divided by 6 ends up being 4. So we've got x equals 4 for our answer. Then we're going to do our check to make sure that works out. And remember, when you're doing your practice problems, you only need to do the checks for the ones that I ask you for. You don't need to do them for every problem. So that first step of starting the check is just to simply rewrite that equation. And again, if you're forgetting, I have those steps to check in lesson 1 and in lesson 2 as well. Then rewriting it one more time, replacing the variable with those empty parentheses, so I can then come back in and fill in that 4 that I got. So now remember, for the check, we're using order of operations. So using order of operations for checks. When you're doing the checks, you're using the order of operations. You're not using inverse operations. So while you might want to distribute the 1/6 here like we did in the problem, that is not the correct thing to do because order of operations tells us to do any groupings first. So inside the grouping, I have 36 times 4, which is 144. Minus 96, and I'm just carrying everything else down. Still working inside those parentheses, 144 minus the 96 is going to leave me with 48. And 48 times 1/6 is really just 48 divided by 6, which is 8. And 8 is equal to 8, making my check work out and everything look fantastic.